Only if you're okay with it, would you like to come to my place? That night, I invited a shivering college student at the park to my home. She was in tatters, but after a bath, I was surprised by how incredibly beautiful she was. Why was she alone at such a time? When I asked her about it, she told me she used to be a CEO's daughter but was now in a tough situation. 3 months later, the famous CEO, Mr. Johnson, visited me while I was unemployed and said, "I want to thank you. Would you like to take over my company?" What? My name is John. I'm currently unemployed. I used to work in sales at a jewelry store, but I was forced to resign due to petty office politics. Even though it sounded petty, getting pushed to the point of resignation couldn't be taken lightly. I've been diligently job hunting to get back on my feet, but it hasn't been going well, leaving me with a lot of free time at home. The harshness of job hunting has broken my spirit many times, making me consider giving up on several occasions. Yet, every time I felt defeated, the fear of not being able to survive motivates me to keep going. Today, feeling that same sense of urgency, I jumped out of bed and set up a meager breakfast. I always eat while watching TV. This habit started when I began living alone. Even though I was trying to save on electricity, it's more about combating the loneliness I feel during meals. As I turned on the TV, a particular news story caught my attention. It was about a long-established kimono shop that had been in the headlines recently. The shop's CEO, Mr. Johnson, had been arrested for making personal donations to politicians. An investigation was conducted, which revealed further misconduct, such as selling kimonos and jewelry at unfair prices. A former employee was interviewed on TV, who was criticizing Mr. Johnson harshly. I believe he deserved to be arrested for what he did, and it's understandable that former employees would speak ill of him. However, the interview brought back memories of my own difficult situation at the jewelry store. And I couldn't help but feel some sympathy for Mr. Johnson. Just then, the doorbell rang. No one ever visited me at 8 a.m. Wondering who it could be, I put down my chopsticks and headed to the door. Yes, who is it? Judging by your reaction, you forgot, didn't you? Standing at the door was my sister, Emily. Emily is 3 years younger than me and a junior at a prestigious women's college. She had mentioned she would visit her unemployed brother soon, and it seemed today was the day. But wasn't it a bit too early? Sorry, I completely forgot. I thought so. I even brought a gift, and yet, here I am with a rude brother, she said, pushing past me into the apartment. But isn't it too early? I haven't even finished breakfast. Well, yeah, but I was on my way home anyway. Coming home in the morning, huh? You've grown up, Emily. What are you misunderstanding? I was just drinking at a friend's place. Oh, so it wasn't what I thought. Why do you sound a bit disappointed? As a brother, shouldn't you be relieved that your sister isn't being led astray by some guy? Of course, but it's also sad to think my cute sister has no interest from guys. It's not like there's absolutely no interest. Really? Who's the guy? Your face changed too quickly, it's scary. What's up with your emotions? After that, we spent about an hour chatting about recent events. Speak of the devil, Emily suddenly said, focusing on the TV that had been left on. The news about Mr. Johnson, the CEO of the kimono shop, was being covered again on another program. Emily mentioned that his daughter was also a junior at her university. Apparently, the university was a K-12 institution, and his daughter has been there since elementary school. When Emily first transferred there from a public school, the biggest gossip was about her. People were talking about her even when she was in high school. Everyone was excited about this amazing heiress joining the university. Was she really that impressive? Of course. She's a genuine heiress and incredibly beautiful. Emily lamented that she couldn't show me a photo, then turned back to the TV. So, is she super popular at the university? Actually, no. Surprisingly, she's not. Really? Yeah, she has this unapproachable aura. Guys from other schools even come over trying to talk to her, but she ignores all of them. Huh, so she acts all high and mighty? Probably. So, I bet there are a lot of people who think this scandal is karma. Hearing that, I looked at the TV again. I had planned to job hunt today, but since Emily decided to stay for a bit, I spent the day at home. She must have been really tired because what was supposed to be a short rest turned into her staying until nightfall. When evening came, feeling reluctant to part after our rare reunion, I walked Emily to the nearest station. The station was nearly empty, given the late hour. While Emily chatted away, I noticed something in a corner of the station. Under a tree that provided some shade during the day, there was a woman sitting alone. Even in the dim light, it was clear she was curled up against the tree. Not feeling the urge to approach her, I sought Emily off at the ticket gate. On my way back, I took the same path. As I descended the stairs and entered the plaza, the woman was still there. She remained huddled at the base of the tree. It was odd for someone to sit there late at night, away from prying eyes. I wondered if she might be feeling unwell. Thinking that, I quietly approached the tree, trying not to startle her. "Excuse me, are you okay?" I called out gently, trying not to alarm her. But she didn't respond. I raised my voice a bit, but still no reaction. Thinking she might be asleep, I moved into her line of sight. Yet, she showed no sign of noticing me. She was slumped over, her face hidden, making it likely she hadn't seen me. Whether she was asleep or not, sleeping there wasn't safe. I decided to tap her on the shoulder. She seemed startled when I touched her shoulder, but since she seemed to have realized I was there, I tried again. "Are you okay?" She looked up, and our eyes finally met. Her expression was incredibly sad and fragile, as if she might burst into tears at any moment. "What happened? What are you doing here?" Judging by her clothes, she seemed to come from a well-off background. Although they were slightly dirty, they were all from reputable brands. Upon closer inspection, I noticed she had placed a blanket under her to avoid getting dirt on her clothes. "I don't have anywhere to go, so I thought I'd rest here for the night." Contrary to her expression, the woman responded in a gentle tone. Even the nuances of her speech exuded elegance. Thinking she might be in some trouble, I suggested we go to the police station right next to the station. She immediately lowered her head and began trembling. It seemed her issue wasn't something that could be easily solved by the police. I considered leaving her be, but that just wasn't my style. Trying to offer some comfort, I proposed another idea. "Spending the night here is lonely and dangerous. If you're okay with it, would you like to come to my place to rest a bit?" "What? But I don't want to impose. It's no trouble. I have a sister about your age, and I wouldn't want her spending the night alone in a park. I can't just leave you here." After a moment's thought, she nodded. "Thank you. I appreciate it." Once I brought her home, I realized I didn't have any fancy tea or snacks to offer someone from such a refined background. I seated her in my cramped living room, and went to the kitchen to fetch a new bottle of tea from the fridge. I thought it might not be appropriate to serve it as it was, so I poured the tea into a cup before taking it to her. On the way, I noticed the tea was cold and hesitated, wondering if I should warm it up. Though it wasn't as cold as winter, I remembered it was chilly outside, and her shoulder felt a bit cold when I touched it. So I decided to warm the tea. After some consideration, I brought the warmed tea to her. "It's just some simple tea, but please have some." Even though her appearance was a bit shabby, her mannerisms as she took the tea reminded me of her refined upbringing. I poured the tea from a plastic bottle into a cup and warmed it up in the microwave. But even so, no one could tell otherwise if I told them she was drinking some fancy foreign herbal tea. Even the cup felt so refined that one might think it had decades of tradition behind it. As I watched her drinking the tea and being captivated by the sight, I couldn't help but feel unworthy of the privilege of being so close to her. Suddenly, she began to cry. "Oh, I'm sorry. Was it that bad? I didn't realize it was so bad it made you cry. I apologize. But right now, that's the only tea I have." As I flustered, she wiped her tears and smiled. "No, not at all. I just haven't felt such kindness in a long time, and it moved me." "Sorry for making a scene." Relieved, I sighed and said, "I see. So, were you really planning to spend the night there?" She looked down again and replied, "Yes, I have no place to go." "What happened?" "If you're comfortable sharing, maybe I can help." She seemed to relax and started to speak slowly. Her name was Karen. She turned out to be the only daughter of Mr. Johnson, the CEO of the kimono shop making headlines. From her graceful demeanor, I had guessed she was someone important, but I didn't expect her to be the heiress of such an old and prestigious shop. According to Karen, her father's arrest was a misunderstanding. She didn't know all the details, but the night before his arrest, she heard him arguing with someone on the phone late into the night. From what she overheard, it seemed like her father had been set up, leading to his arrest the following day. She tried to get answers from him, but before she could, they were separated. Moreover, their house was seized, leaving her with nowhere to go. She had lost all the family's savings stored at home, and had been living like a runaway girl with minimal belongings for a few days. You are the first person to reach out to me. I am truly grateful. Thank you. No, I didn't do much. Still, it's strange that such a beautiful woman like you didn't get any help. But I'm glad I was the one to approach you first. There are people out there who might not have the best intentions. Yes, you're right. Thank you so much. She said this while looking slightly embarrassed, lowering her head. By the way, I mentioned earlier that I have a sister 3 years younger than me who attends that prestigious women's university. I heard you go there too. Yes. But I haven't been able to attend since the incident. And to be honest, I didn't have any friends there either. The conversation grew awkward, as it felt like I had touched on a sore subject. Even so, it's dangerous for a woman to stay out in a place like that. What if something happened? When I said that, she looked down again. This time, it was as if she had no words left to respond. I understand you don't have anyone to rely on and nowhere to go. So why don't you stay at my place until you get back on your feet? She looked surprised at my suggestion. After a moment of contemplation, she replied, Is that really okay? I mean, a young man and woman under one roof. What? If my father saw me in this situation, what would he say? I might not be able to get married. Hey, Karen? Don't get carried away on your own, please? Sorry. I got a bit flustered. I've never stayed at someone else's place before, so I went a little overboard. You did say you didn't have any friends. And to think my first experience is with such a kind and wonderful person. She blushed and suddenly seemed more like an innocent girl rather than the dignified woman from before. Then, she looked at me seriously and said, John, yes, I will take you up on your offer and stay here with you. I couldn't tell if she was serious or joking, but I felt a bit relieved knowing she had a surprisingly strong spirit. She had managed to survive for a few days without a home after her father's arrest. She must be resilient. I let her take a bath, and while she did, I contacted my sister to explain the situation and asked her to get some necessities for Karen. Initially, Emily was shocked, saying, What happened? But calmed down once I explained, agreeing to help without further questions. I finished the bath. Oh, were you talking to someone? You aren't cheating on me already, are you? Why would you think that? We're not even dating yet. Yet? So you plan to date me in the future? Karen, you're surprisingly bold, aren't you? Yes. My father says I get it from my mother. Though she wasn't around much by the time I was old enough to remember. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, don't worry about it. I don't have many memories of her. So, who was that on the phone? It was my sister. I told her you'd be staying with me for a while, and she's bringing some things you'll need. Oh my, meeting the family so soon. John, you're moving fast. We haven't even spent our first night together yet. Wait, no. What do you mean by first night? We are not going to sleep together. As I stammered, she gave me a playful smile. Oh, I'm fine with that anytime. I noticed she was wearing one of my t-shirts, with a towel around her neck. And from her still damp long hair wafted a pleasant scent, one that I could hardly believe came from the same shampoo I use. Just go dry your hair before you catch a cold. The first words I managed to utter, stuck for words as I was, were pathetic even to my own ears. Still, she quietly returned to the bathroom, which was connected to the dressing room. After she was ready for bed, I showed her to the guest room and said goodnight. She had the same upbeat demeanor as before, but since I had preparations for job hunting the next day, and spending the night with a girl I just met didn't seem appropriate, I declined and left the bedroom. Even so, I was worried about whether she was sleeping well, so I checked on her a few times. Peeking quietly into the bedroom, I saw that she was sleeping soundly, perhaps exhausted from putting on a brave face. Seeing her deep in sleep, unaware of my presence, I felt relieved. As I was about to leave the bedroom, I heard a small murmur. "Dad!" Her soft utterance made me turn back. She had a sorrowful expression on her face, even in her sleep. No matter how tough she acted, she was still a young girl. Being separated from her only family member must have been incredibly painful for her. Her father had been arrested for a crime he didn't commit, and now he was being vilified by the public. I resolved to treat her with kindness from now on, while also feeling anger at the world's unfairness. To separate her from her father due to a wrongful arrest and to take away the home of an innocent girl is beyond cruel. If what she said was true and her father was wrongfully arrested, who would do such a thing, and why? These questions made me even angrier. I didn't know how long she'd stay with me, but I resolved to ensure she didn't feel lonely while she was here. With that thought, my tumultuous day came to an end. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of a delicious breakfast. Wondering who was cooking, I went to the kitchen and found Karen and my sister, Emily, happily cooking together. Karen noticed me first. "Oh, good morning. You slept well, didn't you?" Her radiant smile was a stark contrast to her sad tears the night before. "Good morning. Emily, you are here so early again. Another all-night party? Good morning, bro." "No, I was just worried about you. I came to deliver some essentials and found Karen here." "What a surprise. I was surprised too. I never expected to meet your sister so soon. Actually, she's my senior. Just call me Emily. No need to be so formal. But I can't believe Karen is staying at my brother's place. You've got some nerve, bro. Hey, don't say things that could be misunderstood." "Misunderstood? You kept peeking into my room last night, didn't you?" "What? You were awake?" "Of course. With those intense stares, anyone would wake up," she said, blushing theatrically. Emily looked at me with a mix of disbelief and disgust. "John, that's kind of creepy. I was just worried if she was sleeping well." "I didn't do anything inappropriate." "That's still not very respectful to Karen, right? Then what should I have done? Anyway, it looks like I'll be staying here for a while. I hope we can get to know each other better, John. And eventually. Karen, if my brother does anything you don't like, just tell me, okay? Oh, my kind sister-in-law." That morning was filled with so much banter that I found it exhausting to respond to every comment. After a cheerful breakfast with the two of them, I started preparing to head out for job hunting. And so began my unusual cohabitation with Karen. At first, it was a bit awkward, but we gradually got used to it, and I started enjoying my time with her. When I was out job hunting, Emily would often come by to keep Karen company. According to Emily, Karen felt like a little sister she couldn't ignore. Despite still acting tough, Karen slowly regained her original cheerful and elegant demeanor, shedding the weight of her recent hardships. Seeing her return to her true self up close made me happy and also made me wish our time together could last longer. About 3 months after Karen started living with me, we were having breakfast as usual. Karen had just set the last of the dishes on the table when we heard the news from the TV. We usually didn't watch TV during meals, but we kept it on to stay updated on her father's situation. That day, the news finally announced that Mr. Johnson's arrest had been a mistake. Karen, who was carrying a tray, froze in the doorway, staring at the TV. "See? Finally. Just like I said." Karen cried with joy, her voice trembling with tears, and I couldn't help but hug her. "Thank goodness. This means you won't be alone anymore," I said, almost tearing up myself, moved by her happiness. The news went on to explain the details. The man they arrested this time was Nathan, the executive vice president of the company. The person Mr. Johnson had argued with before his arrest was Nathan. It turned out that Nathan had framed Mr. Johnson to get him arrested. Furthermore, Nathan had conspired with several employees to claim the right to manage Mr. Johnson's assets, and was planning to seize all the companies in Mr. Johnson's properties. However, during the investigation, all these plans came to light, and Mr. Johnson was exonerated while Nathan was arrested. For me, it felt like something out of a drama, so surreal that I muttered, "This feels like a TV show." Karen, hearing the full story, seemed to relax for the first time in a while, nearly collapsing to the ground. I supported her as she clung to me, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so glad." Karen had probably not minded the current living situation. But the uncertainty about her father's future must have been overwhelming. "Yes, I'm so glad too." We repeated those words to each other, holding each other gently. The following week, Karen received word that her father and their home were being returned to them. Through Karen, Mr. Johnson conveyed that he wanted to invite me and Emily, who had taken care of Karen for the past 3 months, to their home. Both Emily and I were eager to accept, so we gladly went with Karen to the Johnson residence. Though not fully restored, the house was still luxurious, almost unreal in its opulence. We met Mr. Johnson, who appeared to have lost a lot of weight. Karen and her father had an emotional reunion, crying and hugging each other. The touching scene moved Emily to tears. "Nice to meet you. I'm Karen's father. Thank you so much for taking care of my daughter. I truly appreciate it," he said, bowing deeply, which was unexpected for someone of his status. "No, it was nothing. I just did what anyone would do. Still, I'm glad you were the one who found her first." Although a bit embarrassed, I was pleased to hear that. "I'd like to repay you somehow." "What would you like?" Karen spoke up from beside him. "Dad, John is currently unemployed. How about we let him work for us?" After helping you, we should employ him? Is he in such dire need of a job? Embarrassingly, I've failed in all my job applications so far. How could any company not hire someone as wonderful as you? It's absurd. But while I'm happy to offer you a job, it doesn't seem like enough." After thinking for a moment, Mr. Johnson spoke with a slight grimace. "Really, just getting a job is more than enough. No, even if it's enough for you, it's not enough for me. How about this? Why don't you marry my daughter and take over the business?" "Wait, what? That's too much too fast. You can't decide something like that so lightly." "I'm not taking it lightly. I owe you more than my life. Besides, it seems my daughter has feelings for you." "Huh?" Karen was taken aback by the sudden turn of the conversation and froze. Am I wrong?" "No, that's not." Karen stammered, her face turning red from embarrassment. Though we had often joked about it while living together, I never thought she took it seriously. "No way. Even though I've spent time with her, that's just not possible." I tried to laugh it off, but no one joined in. In the awkward silence, I found myself at a loss for words, so I looked to Emily for help. "John, you're surprisingly dense, you know?" Instead of help, I got a sharp retort that hit me like a volley shot from Emily. When I looked back at Karen, she was glancing at me shyly, fidgeting nervously. Her reaction made me realize that all our previous banter had been her way of masking genuine embarrassment. "So, what's your decision?" I was a bit taken aback by the unrealistic proposal, but I decided to accept it. And so, having unexpectedly saved the daughter of a long-established kimono shop owner, I went from being unemployed to training to become the heir of Mr. Johnson's business by marrying into the family.